Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Daily Dose, your daily dose of support from Alive and Well communities. My name's Emily. I'm filling in for our usual fearless host, Sean Mars, today, and I'm so excited for what we're going to be talking about. I am joined by Rondalyn Logan, who is an art teacher at Rose Acres Elementary School. And using art during this time, we've talked about, is such an important part of supporting our well-being, of keeping our mind active and engaged, keeping that creativity flowing, which is a wonderful way to practice self-care. But I know that for me, I like to make art, but I get a little overwhelmed by anything that isn't just like coloring in the lines. So I'm really grateful that Rhonda's here today to teach us some new ways, maybe, to use art to support our well-being. So Rhonda, before you get into teaching us what you're going to teach us, can you maybe just share a little bit about, why using art or getting creative is a good thing for individuals, no matter their age, to be doing right now?
For me, I just think that art is a way to tap into that creativity that a lot of times we are so busy with the everyday that we don't get a chance to express what's going on in our minds. It's kind of like going back to when you were a child. And for me, it's a way to just kind of let go. I hate to say that I'm not really thinking when I'm drawing, but that's the truth. I'm just in the zone. I usually like to blast my music and I'm just kind of there. It helps you just kind of relax and get all those like feelings of tension or pressure or whatever you have built in, just kind of releases it through your fingers. And so that's just why I feel art is really important. It's always been something that I've done ever since I was little, whether it was coloring in coloring books or painting with watercolors at the table. It's just always been something that relaxes me.
Yeah, and I think that I always try to think back when I'm feeling stressed about what was helpful or felt good or fun when I was young. And, for little kids, so many of them naturally go to art and coloring and drawing as something to get that creative energy out. And I think that reconnecting with that, no matter what our age, is so important. So thank you for sharing that. I think it is really for our brains to be there. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and just turn it over to Rondalyn to teach us something really exciting today, sort of a watercolor technique that we can do even if we don't think we have the materials we need to make it happen.
Cool.
Rondalyn?
All right, guys. So this is one of my favorite techniques to do at school with the kiddos. I think they probably get tired of it because I do it so much, but it's just really fun. And it's called a watercolor resist. So some of the materials that you'll need are crayons. You can also use oil pastels. They work very well also, but I didn't think that a whole lot of people had oil pastels, so that's why I'm using the crayons. And then also watercolor. You do not need the expensive watercolors that you get from the art supply store. You just use a basic set of watercolors. If you don't have watercolors, you can take a washable marker, just soak it in a cup of water. I don't have my markers out right now. Just soak it in a cup of water, and then that tints the water for you, and you can use it as a wash. So what I have today is something that I did maybe about a week ago. It's just the watercolor resist. Did a sunflower. You guys can really do whatever drawing you want. I chose a sunflower because it's pretty easy to do. And then in the back with the crayons, I wrote some things that kind of keep me motivated. So I have like love, laughter, things that I'm thankful for, grace, family, my health, my friends, my dog. His name is Langston Hughes. He may or may not creep into the room with us. He's in the hallway right now. And then at the end, I just brush over everything with watercolor paint, and then your crayon shows up. So the cool thing about this is I used a white crayon, which typically you think white crayon won't show up. When you paint over it, everything shows up. So this is my final, but I'm going to do another one with you guys. Again, you can choose to draw whatever you want. I just chose the sunflower because it's simple, it's bright, reminds me of being happy and cheery. So you can start with whatever color you want. It can be a bunch of random colors. There's no right or wrong. When you're creating art, it's just about having fun and expressing yourself. So I'm going to start at the bottom with making a half circle shape. and mine is really light right now just because I'm just kind of sketching it in, but I am going to go over it and press a little bit harder. One of the important things is that you do press hard with your crayon so it does show up through the watercolor. But again, right now I'm just lightly sketching it on. So I just have a little half circle at the bottom. Then you can decide how high you want your petals to come up. I think on my previous one, they were a little too high, so I crammed my words in. I like my petals to kind of have a little bit of movement. So I'm going to start right here in the middle, drawing a light one. And again, I'll go over it so you can see it a little bit better. If sunflowers aren't your thing, you can do roses, you can do daisies, you can choose to not do flowers at all. It's really up to you. Just have fun with it. So I have my flowers in there pretty lightly, or my flower petals in there pretty lightly. And I just used the pink color. Now I'm going to go over that and pressing firmly. I'm the person that always tells my students, press firmly, but not so hard that you break your crayon. And then I always break my crayon. So if you break it, I always tell them you just have 2 pieces. Don't worry about it. So I'm just tracing over my petals. If you decide you want to add words in your petals, add designs in your petals, it's completely up to you, whatever you want to do. If you make a little mistake, don't worry about it. Turn it into part of your masterpiece. Okay. So there are my petals. Because I think one color is just kind of boring, I'm going to go in and add maybe some little lines with another color. Remember, press firmly. And guys, if I'm talking too fast, I apologize. That's just my thing. I end up talking really fast and don't even realize it.
I feel like I'm getting like my own Bob Ross experience right now. So I can tell you that it sounds great. Keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm just adding a few more colors. Usually my students ask me what my favorite color is. And by default, it's typically teal or turquoise. But then I start thinking, I really like all the colors. So it's really hard to choose one that's my favorite. I am drawn to usually cool colors, but it really doesn't matter. So I'm just adding some more colors just because I have all these crayons. I have a 64 box of crayons and some of them I've never used. So I guess now is the time to play around with it. One of my favorites though is neons, just because they turn out really cool. One thing I really like to do is neon and then paint over it with black so it shows up really cool. So I think that's what I'm going to end up doing to my background, is using some neon colors. So I'm just making little swirls. I don't know why I'm making swirls other than I think they're cute and I'm drawn to them. You can do stars. You can, like I said, do words, whatever floats your boat, whatever you're drawn to, whatever your hand wants to do, let it do its thing. Let's see. Maybe I'll put a few little hearts back here because we definitely need more love in the world. You know, whatever's speaking to you, let that come through in your drawing. And then in the middle of my sunflower, just because I also think we need a lot of hope. I think some people are just really, really struggling right now. And we just have to remember that everything's going to be okay. So I'm going to write hope in the middle of my sunflower. Again, trying to press firmly. Okay. And then just because I haven't used any white, I'm going to put a little bit in my petals just to see how they turn out. Okay. once you have your drawing planned out how you like it, now comes the fun part, which is the watercolor. Again, you just use the regular, I have a little cheapie. These are actually the best ones in my opinion, the little cheap ones. So this is just a Crayola watercolor set, but you can really use whatever you want. Again, if you don't have watercolors, you can just soak a marker in the water and kind of let that color drip down. I don't know, I'm thinking it might work, but you could also maybe try the same thing with like food coloring, putting a few drops of food coloring in water and seeing how that turns out. Obviously, the more food coloring you'll use, the more vibrant your color will be. So let's just jump right on into it. Doesn't matter what colors you make your sunflower. You do not have to make it yellow like it typically is. It's really up to you. So I tell my students, make sure your brush is damp and then swirl it around in your paint so you can get enough paint on your brush. Then you directly paint on top of your crayon. The crayon doesn't disappear, it still shows up. If you get out of the lines, who cares? Just have fun with it. The more paint you get on your brush, the brighter the colors will be. Feel free to mix colors as well. I usually tell my students, so if you're going to mix on your paper, try not to mix in the tray because you don't want to ruin. I usually have them sharing paint with the person next to them, so you don't want to ruin the paint for the person next to you, but do what you want to do. It's your groove, so do whatever feels natural and right to you. I'm just kind of quickly putting it on. You might notice that I'm not painting towards the bottom of the sunflower, and that's because I think I'm going to mix in a little orange with it. Again, you don't have to. You can, if you want a pink sunflower, make a pink sunflower. I think that would be beautiful. So the colors are blending a little bit. Not quite as bright as I want them to be, but it's all right. And then the middle of my sunflower, I don't want to make it black. I'm going to make mine purple because right now purple is what's speaking to me. So I'm going to put a little purple. And as you can see, you can still, hopefully you can see it, still see your, whatever you put in the middle of your sunflower, if you chose to put anything in it. Right. And now I'm going to do probably my favorite part, which is the background, just because I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out. So like I said before, I was going to use black because I like the way black plays off the neons. You can get as messy as you like. And what is art if you don't get a little messy? I have some students that get upset because they get paint on their hands. I'm like, well, you can always wash it off. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to be on there forever. And again, if you get a little paint somewhere that you don't want it to be, not a big deal. There's no art police that's going to come and track you down or anything. So. One thing that I notice that I do when I paint, and I'm really trying to work on that, I hold my breath. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm like nervous I'm going to make a mistake or if I'm just like really in the zone and forget to breathe. But please remember to breathe. We don't want anyone passing out while they're painting. So.
I think that is an important tip. Quick question while you're working on this, Rhonda. Are you just using regular paper Or does there need to be any special kind of paper?
It does not have to be any special paper. I'm just using my sketchbook, and the paper is a little bit heavier on my sketchbook or in my sketchbook, but really it works with any kind of paper. The one thing that you will notice if you use like a regular copy paper or like a notebook paper, your paper will start to crinkle up a little bit, but that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But one tip that I will give you, if you're painting on thinner paper, try to make sure you're moving around your painting and not painting in one spot. Because if you keep painting in one spot over and over again, your paper is going to give way and you're going to have a hole in it. So again, it doesn't matter what kind of paper you use, but if you do use a thinner one, just keep in mind, don't paint in one spot over and over again. And I think that's about it with the painting. It's pretty quick. You can always let it dry. And if there are some spots where maybe you didn't press as hard as you would have liked with your crayon, just let it dry, go over it again. And then if you would like, you can go back over it with the watercolor, or you can just leave it the way it is. It's a masterpiece. It's your masterpiece. It's your way of expressing yourself. And that's it. There we have it.
Thank you so much. I can't believe I just watched you create something so beautiful so quickly. And I love exactly what you said with the neon behind the black. That is so cool. How long will it take for that to dry?
Watercolor really dries quickly. And that's the funny thing. Like I'll have students at school and they're like, it's already dry. Like, so my petals are already dry. A lot of times I'll just tell them, just kind of touch it with your finger. But a lot of it, you can just kind of eyeball. Like I can see how the water and the paint is still just kind of sitting here. So I know that's still wet. But typically, everything else for the most part is dry. I'll just leave it sitting here. I'm going to be honest, probably for the rest of the day because I'm going to forget to come in here and move it. But I'd say maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes tops. And then you're good to go. You can hang it up. You can give it to someone. You can just come back and look at it and say, look what I created, whatever you want to do with it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know on my next trip to the store, or I'm going to be looking on Amazon to get some watercolors in here because I'm a little art challenged, but I think that I could maybe make something like that work.
Oh, thank you. It was awesome. This was, like I said, it's been like a month since I've been in the classroom. So this is really cool. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Rhonda, thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your wisdom with us today. To all of our viewers who are watching live or who are watching later, here's your Daily Dose challenge today. Your Daily Dose challenge is to get creative. Find something around your house. If you've got those crayons or markers or watercolor paints, Rhonda has just taught us a beautiful technique to make something for our homes or to share with another person. But really find time today to tap into that creativity. We all have it. And like Rhonda said, there's no art police. So if you mess up, if it doesn't go quite exactly how you planned, that's okay. It's really about the process that helps to foster that well-being. So again, to our community who is watching us today, thank you so much for joining us. We are grateful to you and your continued support of the Daily Dose of Support. We'll be showing some reruns for the next couple of days to give our team at Alive and Well a pause for self-care too. But be sure to turn in to see some of our favorite episodes. As always, be well, remember to take care of yourself. And if you've got one of those essential workers that you want to nominate for us to shout out on the Daily Dose, make sure that you send us that message on Facebook or send us an email to info@awcommunities.org. Thank you again to Rhonda. We are so grateful for your wisdom. Everyone have a great rest of your day.